Greetings, Paper Demons. Today I'm going to talk about how you can evolve your art style, and I'm going to share my personal experience with how I developed my art style. I feel like I'm finally at a point where I'm creating art consistently that feels the same, that feels like it's by the same artist, has a consistent aesthetic, so I think now is a great time for me to speak on this topic. So through this video I'm going to show a time lapse of one of my pieces that I think reflects my current art style well, so you can see how it's constructed, what the different pieces of my art style are, while I talk through some key points and tips on how you can develop your art style. Just a quick note, the character depicted on the right belongs to another member of the PaperDemon community named schwarzeralptraum. I may have butchered their name, but a link to their profile is in the description below, so you can learn more about their art and their character. I know a lot of artists struggle to develop their art style and may be dissatisfied with their art style and want to develop it but are not sure how to go about it. But I want you to know that you're not alone, and even professional artists struggle with this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think pros struggle to develop an art style. My hope is that from this video you can walk away with some concrete things you can do to help you develop a style. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the benefits of having an art style. Why is it important to have an art style at all? I have 3 reasons why it was important to me to develop an art style. You may have different reasons on why having a consistent style may be important to you, but these are the 3 reasons that I've found most beneficial. The first is followers on social media tend to follow someone because they like the aesthetic and art style of a person's art. So usually an artist is going to gain a following when their gallery has a consistent look and feel. The art that they're creating continues to reflect the same visual style and aesthetic. So for me, creating art that was of a consistent style was important in that regard. Second, having an art style also means having a pretty good art process. And this is something I hadn't really realized until I had achieved a consistent art style, but once you have that art style, it actually helps you avoid art block. And the reason is, in order to have a consistent art style, you end up having a consistent art process. And when you have that process, it's much quicker for you to complete a work of art, and you build more momentum. You have a more systematic way of creating your art that you can rely on over and over again. I know a lot of artists within our community are struggling with art block, so that's why I wanted to kind of bring that up as a really cool, unexpected benefit, actually. I didn't really expect this until after I got there. And the third reason I wanted to have a consistent art style is because I'm building an art role-playing game right now. Many of you watching are members, active members of the PaperDemon community, so you know that we run an art role-playing game to help motivate creators. And it was important to me that the artwork in the game, especially the item artwork, have a consistent look and feel. The artwork for the events have a consistent look and feel so that it feels like it's all part of the same world. And the reason that's important is oftentimes a person will decide whether or not to play a particular art role-playing game because they like the artwork, because they like the aesthetic. So let me take a moment to just kind of describe my art style and show you a couple examples. If you're new to this channel, you're not familiar with my work, you can kind of have some context. So typically my art, I use pencil textures, and I'm talking in this video mostly about digital art, by the way. I also do traditional art, mostly watercolor, but for the purposes of this video, I'm mostly talking about my digital art style. So my art style tends to use pencil line art with thick, thin lines. Tends to be very colorful, have a very ethereal or fantasy feel to it. It has some anime influence in there, uses pastel textures and watercolor textures. The hair tends to be really flowy, lots of flowy clouds and that kind of thing. A colored, glowy outline around the characters, and lots of multiply and screen and color dodge sparkles and effects. One thing I've heard other artists say when they talk on this topic is that art style comes naturally. Just be patient and over time it will come. And so I have some counter opinions to that. I do agree that some of that is true. Definitely for me, I started out drawing a lot of anime, so there is an anime influence that is subconscious to my art. Even when I'm not trying to do anime style, it ends up looking anime. This actually became a problem for me when I was studying art in college. I actually got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, so I studied animation and illustration. So my instructors were, at the time, very anti-anime. A topic that I also have opinions on, but that's probably for a separate video. But I recall like trying not to draw anime and my teachers telling me your art still looks like anime. So sometimes these things are subconscious. They kind of come along for the ride, whether you want them to or not. You're influenced by the artists that you observed, that you copied earlier in your art journey. So it is true that some of your style is going to come naturally over time. But I will tell you, I've been an artist for a long time, 20 years now. I've done it professionally, and I did not have a consistent art style for most of that time. It wasn't really until the last couple of years where I was being very intentional. I'd say the last 4 years or so, I've been intentional about building out a consistent style, and it took time and it took intent. Most of what I have achieved over the last few years was not an accident. And I'm going to tell you what specific things that I did in order to get to that level of consistency, to build that art style that I was happy with, that I could replicate over and over again. So my hope is that it will help you as well. So I kind of said that even professional artists can run into this problem of lack of style and continuity. And I think that for me, and this could be true for a lot of other students of art, that when you go into a traditional setting to learn art, you're so focused on learning the academic side of drawing and painting that you lose yourself in it. You lose what made your art unique because you're so focused on trying to make your art as good and technically proper as possible. And so when I came out of college, I didn't really have a consistent look and feel to my portfolio. I did demonstrate skill in my portfolio, and that's why I was able to get hired as an illustrator right out of school, but I didn't really have that kind of continuity. So for the first few years out of college, this was like around 2008 to 2010, I worked for Google as an illustrator. I did Google Doodles. I did over 100 doodles for Google. And if you were to look at the body of work that I did during that time, you would see that there is very little consistency. I mean, you can maybe tell some of them that they were done by me. Like there is certainly, like I said, there is some subconscious style that's in there, but the art is so varied that you can't really see a consistent style. And some of that is because, I experimented a lot. I used a style that I thought was appropriate for the particular illustration that would communicate what I wanted to communicate. But as an individual artist, that doesn't necessarily work well because, as I said, when you're trying to build a following online and you're trying to build a game where you want all the art to look consistent, using different styles like this is not going to work well. So if we fast forward a bit, so between probably 2011 to 2017, I wasn't really creating that much art during that time. I actually fell into an art block. I don't want to get into the details of that art block in this video, but I will say in around 2017 is when I was starting to try and get out of this art block. And the reason for that was because I had decided in that year that, okay, PaperDemon is something I really love to do. I would love to do PaperDemon full time. And I started to seriously commit to that. And in order to succeed in creating a business for artists, I felt it was important for me to get out of an art block and be creating. The work I was creating between 2017 to 2019 was really inconsistent. It was all over the place. A lot of the art that I created was bad. I had very few finished pieces, and part of that was because I was rusty. So one of the things that did help me, though, is I did participate in Inktober. I think most artists are familiar with this challenge. It's a challenge where you focus on your inking skills. You create a new work of art where you ink the illustration every day for the month of October. Now, I did not attempt to do all 31 days of October. I only did like 6 days. But this particular piece that I finished as part of that challenge, I felt was helping me to define my style and figure out what is it that I like about my art that I want to continue doing. And so one of the things I really liked was the flowing lines that came out of this, some of the the bubbles and the sparkles and that kind of thing. So I decided, okay, this challenge helped me to see that and helped me to carry it forward into my next set of pieces so that I could continue to develop my style. Another thing that helped me with developing my style was looking back at my early art that was maybe not so much influenced by the academic side of learning art. So I went back and looked at stuff I created 10, 15 years ago. What qualities of this artwork did I really like that I wanted to carry forward? What is it that makes it unique and special that I could bring back and revive in my current artwork? And so I noticed, okay, I used pencil a lot for the line work. I didn't use ink. So I liked that look and feel. I also colored that line art, so it wasn't just, grays and blacks. I also used a mix of colors. I had things having a very ethereal feel. Here's a couple of pieces from 2004 and 2005 that I had created that I thought were reflective of some qualities that I wanted to bring back into my modern era of art. I also did some experimentation. So there were some artists that I was following that had some particular qualities to their art that I really liked. And I wanted to study what it is that they do and see if there's some things from that I can incorporate in my own work. So in particular, I was very much influenced by Jeremy Fenske. A link for his channel is in the description below. He did a piece actually of A Legend of Zelda, and I decided to also do a Legend of Zelda piece influenced by his particular art style. I think I may have even used his brushes. I think he gives brushes out for free for Photoshop. So trying to emulate someone else's style and seeing what things you like about that style and then pulling pieces of that into your own work can be very beneficial. Then also in 2019, I participated in the PaperDemon Secret Santa art trade, and the person I got assigned had requested 2 characters from Pokemon that I'd never heard of in a steampunk style, which I had never done any steampunk art before, and I had so much fun with this challenge. So I found that through getting these parameters from someone else by participating in these challenges, it actually significantly helped me in developing my style. This particular piece I felt was almost like a landmark for me in terms of developing my current art style. Then in 2020, I continued to make more progress. In particular, the Elemental Magic challenge that we hosted on PaperDemon helped me to refine my style even more and get back in touch with drawing these flowing lines and starting to introduce more of these sparkles and that kinds of effects. So these 2 pieces that I finished here of water and air were really good landmarks for me in developing my art style. As an aside, there's also things that I experimented that didn't really work. There was a period of time that I was experimenting with watercolor brushes because I wanted to try and get my work to look closer to my traditional work. And I found them to be very frustrating to work with. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to use them again in the future, but even though I used them for a few pieces, I didn't really feel like it was the right fit. So, as part of this process of developing your style, you're going to have failures, and that's okay. Experimenting can help you decide what things you don't like and what things you do. There was also another piece I'd created once we launched the art role-playing game. I created my elemental power drawing for just my character discovering their elemental power. And then we get to the piece that we're seeing a time-lapse of now, which is Gerald visiting the city of Avantgarde. And I felt like this was okay, I figured it out. I know what my art style is now. And so by this point, I'm I've got a process. I figured it out. I nailed it. Now it's just a matter of replicating it and continuing to create art using this style. So I think it was soon after I finished this avant-garde piece that I had started to create artwork for the items for the game. And so I'm going to show you some of the item art that I had created, and you can see that it all looks fairly consistent and has a consistent look and feel, and also has a lot of the same elements that are present in the illustration, the larger illustration work. The point is, as you can see, I achieved the goal that I originally set out to do, which was achieve a consistent and aesthetically pleasing art style to be able to create consistent art for the art role-playing game. So what are my conclusions? What are my tips? Let's sum it all up for you. So my first tip for you is to go into this with intent. If you do feel like your art does not have a consistent style and you want to fix that, don't just wait for it to happen naturally. I mean, some of it will, but it's not going to hurt you to go into this with some intention. Second, I would suggest gathering a Pinterest board of art that has stylistic traits that you like, so that next time you sit down to do an illustration, you look at that board and you're like, okay, I really like this style here. I'm gonna try this. Third tip related to that is to actually take the time to copy the style of other artists you enjoy, not to become a cookie cutter copy of them. You're not trying to become them and create art that looks like them, but rather to adapt some aspect of their style into your work. Tip number 4 is to revisit your old work. Find aspects of it that may make it uniquely you, or that you like, that you want to carry forward. Number 5 is to participate in art challenges and to experiment. Art challenges are a great way to put you out of your comfort zone and put you in situations you never would have put yourself in to begin with. Number 6 is also experiment with different mediums. So if you're working traditionally, maybe you've done a lot of watercolor work, maybe you try out gouache, maybe you try out acrylics. If you're working digitally, maybe you try out different art programs, try out different brushes. This was definitely part of my process. Was trying out different Photoshop brushes to find ones that I felt were comfortable for me and helped me achieve the style that I wanted to have. And then the last tip is to just create these building blocks. Have each piece build upon the piece you created before. Bit by bit, you will create the line art, the color, the textures, the effects, etc. that make up your unique style. I hope you found this video useful and that you succeed in developing your own unique and wonderful art style. If you have questions, feel free to post in the comments. If you're an artist struggling with art block or looking for a sense of community, check out the PaperDemon art role-playing game. PaperDemon is an active online art community where we support one another and help each other to become more awesome. We do that through our art role-playing game, which helps motivate you to create. You draw your original character in fulfilling different prompts, and then you get virtual rewards. You get cool little items and stuff. So definitely check it out. There's a link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!